I'm just here to remind you that New Girl is a top tier TV show, and I don't want to hear otherwise. Welcome back, everybody. My name is Tucker, and in today's video, we have some news to talk about, and that is that Billy Donovan is now going to be the head coach of the Chicago Bulls. And this is significant because this is a Bulls team that has talent on the roster, but it needs to be properly developed, or they're not going to be going anywhere over the next couple of seasons. And of course, Donovan is replacing, arguably, maybe not even arguably, the worst coach in the league in Jim Boylen. And this could be a really big deal for the Chicago Bulls as a franchise moving forward. And I'm really excited to go ahead and get into this and talk about what this means for their team. But really quickly, before we get started, if you enjoy content like this, then consider subscribing. I upload basically every single day, and leaving a like rating as well on the video is a great way to let me know that you're enjoying the content and helps out the video a ton on YouTube as well. And you can follow me on Twitch, because when this kind of stuff happens, like it did yesterday, there were people in the Twitch chat yesterday that got to interact with me immediately and talk about the Billy Donovan signing, which was super fun. So do that as well. With that said, let's go and get started. Okay, so the first really important thing to note here is, regardless of what you think about Billy Donovan as a coach, which we will get to throughout this video, regardless of what your opinion is of him, this is absolutely an upgrade for the Chicago Bulls. And pretty much anybody that they would have hired probably would have been an upgrade over Jim Boylen. And I don't want this to turn into, let's just trash Jim Boylen for however many minutes. But this is a significant upgrade for them at the head coaching position. Even if you don't think that Billy Donovan was a great coach in Oklahoma City, this is a big deal just that they got rid of Boylen and they brought in someone else. And for the Bulls right now, the primary goal for them has to be developing the young talent on the roster. And in my mind, there's four players here. It's Zach Lavine, who I don't know if you would necessarily consider like a young player, but making sure that he's continuing to develop. Coby White, who was their pick last year, Wendell Carter Jr., and most importantly, Lauri Markkanen, because he is a player that really had a bad season last year under Jim Boylen and took steps back offensively that I didn't expect to see from him. And I think that that is the biggest jump that this team can make moving forward, is Lauri Markkanen just getting back to the player that he was, but then continuing to improve. I mean, this guy can be a 20-point per game scorer for this team, depending on the role that he's placed in, and that would be a huge help for them moving forward. But those are the four guys. I think Coby White can be a really good NBA player. Whether he's ever going to be like an all-star or not, I'm not sure about, but he certainly has the talent to be a really good NBA scorer. And then for Wendell Carter Jr., I think he can be an Al Horford type player, someone that really helps you win basketball games, has versatility on both ends of the floor, and fits really well with three potentially really good offensive players in Markkanen, White, and then Zach Lavine as well. And that is the goal for this team moving forward. And with that being the goal, I think Billy Donovan is a pretty good choice. Maybe not the best choice out there. I still think that Kenny Atkinson showed an ability to build a development program there in Brooklyn that developed young players that started from much lower than where Lavine, Markkanen, and Coby White are going to be coming from, and developed them into really good NBA players. And so I felt like if that was the goal, maybe it would have made more sense to bring in Atkinson, but maybe he wasn't interested. Apparently, Donovan wasn't initially interested in the Bulls job. He wanted to kind of decompress and get away from the bubble and really figure out where he wanted to go next, because not returning to the Thunder, at least to me, was definitely a surprise. I mean, there was some Coach of the Year buzz potentially around Billy Donovan with the turnaround that Thunder team had from getting rid of Russell Westbrook and Paul George in the offseason and then becoming a good playoff team and a team that almost advanced to the second round. And sure, you can attribute that to having Chris Paul on the roster, and they actually, had a pretty talented roster, but still, there was some buzz for Billy Donovan as potentially being a Coach of the Year candidate, and then for him to not return was surprising. But apparently a lot of that was financially motivated. The Thunder want to be a lot more financially conscious moving forward, which resulted in not only Donovan no longer being the coach, but potentially Chris Paul being moved relatively soon as well. So to get a coach like that you didn't think was going to be on the market and is arguably the best coach overall available, it's a really good thing for the Chicago Bulls. And again, I think from a development standpoint, Atkinson kind of has a leg up there for Donovan. But this situation in Chicago is almost ideal for what Billy Donovan does well, because initially when he came to the league, it was a struggle. He was coming from a really good college program at Florida, where he was on pace to be one of the winningest coaches in NCAA basketball history, and then was put on this Thunder team with Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook, and having to deal with grown men, with NBA athletes that that have a lot more egos than college players do, and you kind of have to cater what you're doing more towards them rather than being a little bit more of an authoritarian at the college level. And it was just different, and it was a lot it was a huge adjustment for Billy Donovan to kind of figure out how to relate to these professional players and how to really get them to follow him and for him to be a leader of those guys. And it was a big struggle initially for him. And that's why I think we saw more success with this most recent Thunder team, was because by and large, it was a much younger roster. Yes, you had veterans, you had Chris Paul, you have Danilo Gallinari, but having someone like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and a couple of the other young players they have on that roster really fit a lot better the style of coach that I think Billy Donovan is. And I think he's going to be allowed to do that more in Chicago and then kind of grow up with this group, with Coby White, with Zach Lavine, with Lauri Markkanen, with Wendell Carter Jr. I think that fits really well what he wants to do. And maybe you don't think Billy Donovan is the best X's and O's coach you've ever seen. I think generally that aspect of coaching is a little bit overrated. And a lot of it at the NBA level is relating to your players, making sure that they know that you're on their side, the proper communication with them, making sure that they're happy, and then just making sure that they're competing every night. And I think Billy Donovan can absolutely do that for this Bulls team. And that's going to really help them moving forward. Like I said, their options right now are either develop the young core that they have in addition to whoever they're going to draft this year, or potentially take a big swing if they want to trade some of their pieces for a star, or restart and basically have the last 3 or 4 years have been a complete waste. Those are the options right now for Chicago, and bringing in someone like Billy Donovan certainly helps them reach their goals way more than someone like Jim Boylen would, but more than a lot of the other head coaches on the market as well. So for the Bulls, I certainly think that this is a positive thing. And now it just comes down to the players and the staff that he puts together and the development program that they put together. Now, not only with a new coach, but also with a new front office in place in Chicago. I think all of those are positive developments and changes that needed to be made probably much sooner than this, but at least I'm glad that those changes were made now. Now, for their immediate outlook, I don't think that this necessarily changes the Bulls into some kind of guaranteed playoff team for next year. But they have talent. They have someone in Zach Lavine that's going to really be able to score the basketball, and they're going to be bringing in another rookie this year. Maybe there's a trade to be made there where they move one of these younger players if they feel like they're getting close to being a top 6 team in the Eastern Conference. Maybe that is in play for them. But beyond that, you develop the young guys. You focus on having that cap space moving forward as well. You have assets to potentially trade. And that's the blueprint for this team. But the first step, as I continue to say, was always going to be getting rid of Jim Boylen and then ideally replacing him with someone that's a competent NBA coach. And regardless of your opinion of Billy Donovan, I think he has proven to this point that he is bare minimum a competent NBA head coach, and that is something that Chicago has needed for a while, and I think now they finally have it. So if the players properly develop, if they put a system around them that works, I'm not saying they're going to be a playoff team next year just based off of a head coaching change, but they're certainly better positioned this year to be a playoff team potentially than they were last year with Jim Boylen as head coach. I like the Billy Donovan move, and ultimately I think that he probably was someone that was pretty highly sought after on a head coaching market, and so for the Bulls to bring him in, it's a big move for them. And yeah, there you have it. That is going to be the end of today's video, and I thank you all very much for watching. Sometime later this week, either tomorrow or the next day, we will be doing the Milwaukee Bucks trade machine video. So if you haven't gotten in all of your trades over on Twitter or in the comment section of this video, be sure to do that. I'll be running through the last couple of suggestions here over the next 24 or so hours, and hopefully be getting a video out to you guys on that for Thursday or Friday. But yeah, that's going to be the end of today's video. As I said at the beginning, my name is Tucker. If you missed any of my previous videos, be sure to check out the boxes on screen. Thanks again, and I'll see you all next time.